Now, journalists worth their salt all check their facts. But who checks their facts? It used to be the humble sub-editor, but now there is a whole industry doing it. And there is big money up for grabs for those who want to be the arbiters of truth. The only problem is, instead of dealing in facts, much of the industry simply pushes opinions. More on that soon. Later in the show, we'll look at high-profile resignations at the ABC and a cheeky letter management sent to all staff. But first, this week we published a lengthy expose we have dubbed the Fact Check Files. It sheds light on the opaque and foreign-funded fact-checking operation which is targeting the upcoming constitutional referendum here in Australia. Now, this body of work is 6,000 words long, so I encourage everyone to read it in full. But here are the important takeaways. Meta pays RMIT Fact Lab up to $740,000 from an Irish subsidiary every year to censor so-called misinformation on its chief platform, Facebook. This has resulted in Sky News Australia's journalism being limited in reach, and it has meant journalism about the Voice referendum has been censored and silenced by a campaign bankrolled by foreign funds. This should infuriate all Australians. In the investigation, we set out how RMIT Fact Lab director, Russell Skelton, has been actively campaigning for The Voice, which is against the rules of the International Fact-Checking Network. And one of his fact-checkers even retweeted comments labelling opposition leader Peter Dutton a fear-mongering racist. Now, does all of that sound like an objective outfit to you? Make no mistake, this referendum has been influenced by the very system tech giants promised us was established to protect our democracy. Should your opinions on The Voice be silenced with foreign funds? This referendum is for Australians to decide, not Mark Zuckerberg, and certainly not a bunch of academics who clearly have strong partisan opinions. Well, joining me now is the Australian's media writer, Sophie Ellsworth, and Sky News contributor, James Bolt. Sophie, let's start with you. I know you've been doing a lot of great reporting on the RMIT Fact Lab situation yourself. What do you make of this situation where you have a foreign-funded tech giant saying what we can publish as journalists?
Jack, I think this is really concerning that we have this RMIT Fact Lab, RMIT Fact Check, deciding what is right and wrong in public debate. And who are these people within these units determining what is right and wrong in society? And the fact that they get this funding, that Meta gets this funding, is really interesting too, because I think it just opens up a whole can of worms. You know, Meta's relationship with these fact-checking departments, you know, the funding arrangements show that this is very, very murky and really problematic, as you outline in your fact-check files, that they are really focusing on no campaign information about The Voice to Parliament and not yes. And I wonder why that is, Jack, because they have an ideological view on which way this vote should go.
Yeah, I mean, James, they clearly have an ideological perspective on the issues. Russell Skelton, who featured in this investigation, he's their director, and he's tweeting out things that Linda Burney is producing, full-on campaign slogans. Then they have the audacity to come back to us and say, no, they're following the rules, it's all impartial. It seems inconsistent to me.
Yeah, so this is the problem, is that every human being has their biases and has their way of seeing the world. And you are going to prosecute things that you don't agree with much more than you're going to prosecute things that you do. It's just natural. So the whole fact-checking system that Facebook are introducing is kind of a flawed model. Like, we don't know who these people are. We don't know what their political views are. We don't know what they're going to think is, you know, the big social issue of the year that they need to be on the forefront for, or what they're just going to say, oh yeah, that sounds about right. We just need to know who these people are, and we don't, and we never will. So, you know,
good point.
They'll be replaced by other people, and then there'll be secrecy around that, and we'll just be here again.
It's a good point, and this is about our referendum as well, not a United States debate, not an Irish debate, an Australian debate to decide a constitutional change that they are influencing. Now, I want everybody to listen to the words of Meta founder Mark Zuckerberg, who in 2019 testified in Congress that this entire ecosystem was independent and this entire fact-checking apparatus that he oversees was being policed by this body called the International Fact-Checking Network. Have a listen.
We actually don't appoint the independent fact checkers. They go through an independent organization called the Independent Fact Checking Network that has a rigorous standard for who they allow to serve as a fact checker.
Now, Sophie, another aspect of this investigation was the commercial contract that Meta has directly with RMIT to fact check, which allows them to back charge and claim up to $740,000 every year in payments. That to me doesn't seem like an independent relationship. And the other point is the International Fact Checking Network came back to us and said, well, this body doesn't have to adhere to the code. So Mark Zuckerberg's public statements on the record appear to be incompatible with how the very system's been established.
Jack, I think it just shows your investigations into this particularly how flawed these fact-checking departments are and how problematic it is for society that, as James put it, we have this little group of people, we don't really know who they are, who are determining what is right and wrong in the public debate. And I think that's a frightening situation, and I think it's really important you outline that commercial arrangement and why Australians need to know there is this commercial arrangement. This is about money making too.
Yeah, you know what they said to me, James? They said, well, that's commercial in confidence. You have a taxpayer-funded university policing our referendum, saying what can and cannot be acceptable in discourse from professional journalists. We're not going to tell you what the money is, where it's coming from.
Well, I feel more relaxed. Do you feel more relaxed? I mean, they sound like they've got a fantastic hold on it, so nothing to see here.
Well said.